続きまして、3番目のスピーカー、ラファエル・オデさんをご紹介したいと思います。オデさん、よろしくお願いいたします。
皆さん、こんにちは。私はラファエルです。フランス人です。今から英語でごめんなさい。英語大丈夫ですか? Okay, thank you so much. So my name is Raphael. I work for a company called Design It. Design It is a design consultancy. What we do is we help companies to create and invent new products, new services, new things that's going to help them to kind of move forward. So my official job title is designer. But I know what you must be thinking when I say I'm a designer. You think I'm an artist. Basically, you think, I make some like kind of rainbow-inspired pictures, or I make things that are really pretty. Actually, it's, if you ask Google, that's what it's going to tell you. That design is just a very artistic thing. But that's not, it's not exactly reflecting what I do. I'll give you an example. My mother, she's an artist. She makes these kind of things. So she kind of creates stories, beautiful stories. And then using her artistic skills, she's going to translate them into kind of beautiful images for kids to kind of read books and all. And to me, this is art, truly. And I'll tell you what we do at Design is very different. For example, Design It in Norway was asked to redesign a hospital. But we didn't do it, in order for the hospital to be pretty. We did it for the hospital process to be more efficient. So that, for instance, when people get diagnosis for cancer, it's much faster and much more efficient. So see, there's absolutely nothing artistic there. To quote a famous designer called John Maeda, art is about making question, and design is about making solution. Sometimes it kind of overlaps. We've seen a lot of things in the previous presentation that are in between art and design. But what I do is really here. It's not art at all. The reason why art and design very often are confused and people think it's kind of the same thing is because we say designer, artist, they're creative people. And creativity is something I want to talk to you about today because I don't think there's such thing as a creative person or a non-creative person. Really quickly here, who think they're a creative person? Creative person, come on. Oh, my designer colleague. All right, who think they have a creative job? Guys, come on. All right, well, that's exactly the problem. I mean, for some reason, I don't know who made that, but the world is divided into two, the creative people and the non-creative people. Like the creative people, they wear hat and backpack and sneakers, and the non-creative, they wear suits, and they're good with numbers. But this doesn't have to be like that. I mean, seriously. Actually, I don't really know which one I am. When we're a kid, we're all creative, When we're born, there's no creative and non-creative. Every kid, you give them 2 pieces of red, Lego, and they go and they create crazy stories. Every kid is super creative. But somehow when we grow up, we kind of forget how to be creative, and we start to follow some sort of rules and be very conventional. Now I'm really happy I live in Japan. And I think Japan is one of the most creative countries on earth. I mean, if you walk in the street, if you go to any kind of restaurant, any kind of place, creativity is everywhere. It's in entertainment, it's in art, it's in the streets, in the crazy people's behavior. I think it's so inspiring, but there's one place in Japan that maybe is lacking a bit of creativity, is somehow in business. It's like everybody is so creative, but when you put on a suit and you go to your company, you kind of forget that creativity at home for some reason. Actually, it's kind of what we feel like at Design It, and our mission is to help that change. Because we feel like creativity is a necessary force to create innovation. Japan is at least used to be really, really innovative country. So many great innovations in the world are coming from here. But slowly, America got better, Europe got better, and Japan is kind of like, yeah. But I think if really everybody in like the business world is trying to be more creative, they'll drive more innovation. Another thing is that creativity really brings happiness. When you have people free and trying to be creative, look at them, they'll look so happy. This is the kind of workshop we do at Design It, and every time people come and they kind of have fun, because that creativity we all have in us. And very often, my job as a designer is not to be creative, but it's to create an environment in which people can be creative. So we give them all sorts of, pictures, images, tools, games, so they can free themselves from rules and kind of be creative. And everybody can do that. That's me. So from now on, I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of the things I do that keep me creative. And it's not, science, it's just from my day-to-day. And maybe it can help you to understand how you can be creative in your everyday, even when it's at work. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that I live in Japan. The first thing is observing. Because for me, inspiration is the first step to creativity. And the best inspiration I get it from the everyday. When you walk in the street, when you look closely at what people do, when you observe their really weird behavior, that's going to spark a lot of ideas in your head. And very often we forget to just look around. The second thing is questioning. Don't take anything for granted. Just ask why. Why they carry a red umbrella when they do wedding? I don't know. Why people, sleep in the train in Japan, but they don't in France? Why? If you ask why all the time, your brain gets trained to, inquire and question the status quo. The other kind of tip is to make things. It's really hard to be creative just with words like that. But anytime you give people some kind of toys, some kind of tools to express their idea, all of a sudden they get more creative. And myself, when I need to kind of have some idea, just take a pen and a paper and start sketching. It's not about art, but it's just going to help you be more creative. Another thing is discomfort. It's really, comfortable to be comfortable, but in Japan I have to eat a lot of weird food. I have to do a lot of weird things. Sometimes I need to dress really weird. And those things are not comfortable, but it's good to step out of your comfort zone. It makes you, okay with newness. And the last thing, I'm going to quote a photograph that I've met recently, and I asked him, how do you take such great pictures? And he told me, a good picture is 1 out of 1,000. And that basically, to have one good idea, I think it's the same. You need at least 100 bad ones. So the thing is, people get really scared with creativity because they think they're going to be judged and ideas are bad and all. But it's okay. Creativity is just something we all have inside us, and just takes a little bit of practice to kind of get it out there. And I just hope that with the work we do at Design It, we kind of help the business world in Japan be a bit more creative every day. Thank you very much. Hi.
私から英語で。Okay. That was a really inspiring story. If you can come up on stage.
Hi.
You said the design you're talking about is what makes solutions, right? And could you tell us a little bit about the latest work you have done? Just one example.
So we cannot really name any client we work for because it's confidential. But for example, usually what we do is we have companies that maybe is a bit traditional and industries that is traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And they see that a lot of people are behaving differently and they don't
Right.
interact with them in the same way. And they ask us, what's the modern version of that industry? So I'm going to take, for instance, take any media, whether it's TV or radio or newspaper, and they ask us, people today don't really use us that much. What's the new version of that? And we kind of find a way, for instance, through digital media and through application and all. Another thing is maybe some brands have a store and tell us people don't come to my store anymore. Can you help us?
Right.
And we don't know what we're going to do, if it's redesigning the store or creating a new product or maybe creating a new website or something. That's the kind of things we do.
So you can pretty much design anything. So anybody can be your customer, is that right?
Kind of, yeah.
That's very,
And then,
very
of course, you need some sort of specialty. For instance, I'm more specialized in everything that is digital and web,
Right.
but my colleagues, they make products. Others, they're architects, so they make spaces. But basically, the process to get there is always the same, is
Right.
looking at the real problem and trying to solve it, yeah. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, yes. I hope everybody understood the question and answers as well. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.